There we go. Now we're live. Good morning, Gordon, or good
Good.
afternoon for you. We were just off thing, and I didn't. Yeah, I realize that you guys now are three hours past. You're kind of like on the East Coast from us, so
Exactly.
it's
We're in your
9 o'clock in the
future.
morning. That's right. It's then. So it's looking forward to this today, guys. This is Gordon Melville. We've met through a connected leadership thing together, and this we'll talk about that here in just a second too. But this is where him and I met. So I'm looking forward to getting to know somebody. So this is a podcast that we get to do off the cuff. We're going to learn about each other. We had a little virtual coffee to kind of bounce some stuff off of each other for a little while, and then we decided we're going to do this podcast together. So what I want to do is go ahead and allow you to introduce yourself, and if you have a family, let people know where your family is, kind of where you live, and then we'll get started right away. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Mark.
Good.
Thank you for having me on today. It's an honor to be here. My name is Gordon Douglas Melville. We live in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, which for the Americans is about an hour and a half from Buffalo and 4 hours from Detroit. We're about an hour southwest of Toronto. Been married 30 years to the same understanding woman, amazing woman. And we have three sons, a 12, a 15, and an 18-year-old. So you don't get between them and the fridge. When there's food, the oldest one is 6'3", 275. So we don't get in the way of him. But that's a little bit about where we are. And it's Easter weekend up here still. So Easter Monday, some things are going. My wife's working, but the kids are home from school. So that always adds a layer of fun.
Yeah. How was your Easter? Was it good?
It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, we had a really good Easter. I'm the head of security at our church, and I had the security team there, and we had in our small church, we had 5 services that day, and well over 2,000 people with kids and everything, crossed through there throughout the day. We have services on the hour from 9 to noon, so we were done at 1 o'clock. But it was good. Easter's always kind of a good time. It's a good time to reflect. It's a good time to know what humanity was given on that day. So
absolutely.
So we had a good time, and no incidences. Working security sometimes. It's in today's church world. That's
true.
You got to be on your P's and Q's.
Absolutely.
And so everybody watching now, everybody that sees you now, you have this epic beard. Okay, I've looked at it. I've looked at it how it's transitioned through your Facebook over the years, and it's in that epic stage now. And if I grew my beard out, it would look exactly the same. So Emilio's saying hi.
Yeah, hey Emilio.
Saying hi. I think they're on too. I think I have a black belt that does another podcast, and I think they're on his today. So
very cool.
I had them. And Danielle is saying hi to you.
Hello.
The power couple. They've been married too. So you've been married for 30 years, huh?
30 years, just over 30 years.
My folks, luckily, both my folks are still alive. They've been married 61 years.
Wow.
Mom and dad. They were married at 18 and 16. I tell the story all the time that I'm their oldest boy, and I tell the story all the time that my dad was 18 years old and my mom was 16 when they got married.
Yeah.
And mom was 18 when she had me. So
unbelievable. I thought my wife was 20, just 20 when we got married. I thought that was young, but
yeah, it's so it's good. It's always good to see. Unfortunately, I was divorced at 20 years after 20 years of marriage, and so I was a single dad. I was listening to that you have some boys too. So I raised a boy that lives in Idaho now. We took him in when he was 12, and then I have 3 other boys that one's married, one's 26, and my son's 29, isn't he? 29, 26, and 22, and I got a daughter that's going to turn 21 in June. So I've got those kids, and I know what it's like to be. But I got to raise all my kids, so thankfully for that they live with me, and as years go on, the mom and I been able to get past differences where we can enjoy our kids now as they're
Good,
adults. So that's what we're
good, good,
trying to
good.
do, at least.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's always good to hear. Listen, I tell one thing that I wrote. I was listening to you go through Jose's thing a little bit. Yeah, on when you won your connected leadership, and it is true what you said. And one of those things that you talked about, that you are the product of who you hang out with. Now I've spoke this to my students for, I don't know, every year. You want to be, you want to have a guy that has good. A good marriage and stuff, then be around a guy that's been married for 30 years.
Right.
You want to be wealthy, then be around wealthy people, because broke people just want to bring you down. You know what I mean?
Right.
That
Yeah.
that same thing. So I saw that you put that in there, that
Yeah.
in the connected leaders. Now, did you know Jose before you started Connected Leaders, or how did that
No.
happen, or did you get introduced to him?
Yeah, I got introduced to him. Actually, I was sharing with Daniela and Emilio. I was wrote a chapter in one of their spiritual survivor books, and so we've been friends for a while. And we met at a Elite Speakers Academy in Toronto. And but through that connection, I was sharing with Daniela. I have migraine level pain, have had for 3 years, that never goes away, and she has migraines. So we connect on that level, and we share back and forth. When she's struggling, I'll help, and when I'm struggling, she helps. And I happened to be talking about things, and we were sharing what was going on in our lives. And I had mentioned I was trying to get my radio show off the ground and whatnot. So she was, hey, there's some guys you need to talk to. So she connected me to a bunch of guys from CLA for the Connected Leaders Academy. And so one of those guys was Jose. So we had a conversation, and we had about an hour, and it was funny at the end of it for me, because Jose is like, we're not finished talking. We're not finished talking. We need to do this again. Do you have some time tomorrow? I'm like, okay. So we had some more time the next day. It was awesome. And he's been wonderful. But yeah, he connected me to that group. And to your point, I've always felt if I walk into a room and I'm the most accomplished, most successful person there, unless I'm a teacher or doing something else in that room, I'm probably in the wrong room when it comes to growth, right? So I walked into that room and was like, wow, wait a second. This is the perfect room, because I am not by far the most successful, the most accomplished in that room. I was surrounded by people that were wealthier and more successful and had done more, and that I can learn from. And I've been doing personal development for 30 years. So I always look for that kind of an environment. I'm always looking for a place to grow and to surround myself with amazing human beings. And I've been shocked, pleasantly shocked, by the number of amazing humans, like away from all the credentials and whatever, amazing human beings like yourself that are in that group, right?
Yeah, it was good. It's opened up. He's done a phenomenal job there, as keeping us all kind of meeting new people. Unfortunately, on my side, so I teach class a lot of times, sometimes on Wednesdays, and so if I can divert out of it real quick, I'll try and get on and go in these breakout rooms, because I think that's where you and I.
It is.
Did we meet in a breakout room, or did
I
we
think
meet?
so.
Yeah, we were sitting. Or did
I
you
think
just?
so.
Or he had me in the hot seat or something,
He
and then
had
I
you in the hot
spoke,
seat. That's right.
and then you
I
reached
reached
out to
out.
me.
That's right.
I had a lot of people reach out to me after that that 90 seconds, right? Isn't it amazing what 90, if you say the right thing in 90 seconds,
Absolutely.
it could either make you or break you, I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely something. Now, you said that you wrote part in with Danielle and Emilio about the spiritual fitness.
Yeah.
You did that. Tell me about that book real quick.
So that's just part of they've got 3 or 4 books in that series. And it's a bunch of people that have survived different things. So it's just little bits and pieces of their story to inspire people. And it's sharing it. It says, the tagline says, how to turn your struggles into strengths. So it's a matter of how to you're pivoting, right? Bad thing, good thing, bad things happen to all of us, of course. But bad things, the difference between people that succeed and people that don't a lot of times is how they approach what's happened to them, how they respond to that, right? So two people hit by a drunk driver, quadriplegic. One turns into a bitter, nasty human, justifiably that they're pissed off with the world. I get that. But the other one ends up at the Special Olympics doing whatever. It's just, what's the difference in those two people is their mindset and the way they approach and respond to what happened to them. And so that's what those books are about. Great books. All of them are phenomenal stories. And that's how I met another group of amazing humans. Hector is a Spanish entrepreneur, amazing human being. There was a former Harlem Globetrotter that wrote a chapter in there. So the forward is written by Dr. Obam, if you know who that is. He was a Marine that died flatlined 3 times on a table and came back and is still here. So they're surrounded by a bunch of amazing authors.
I think I'll pick that book up today. That's some good reading for 75 hard. I can tell you that. You know what I mean?
It is.
So
Absolutely.
Short stories, motivational stuff would be something that's good. Now it says spiritual fitness. So does it kind of lean towards that?
Well, what I find, that's the original copy, and it went number 1 bestseller. It leans in that direction in the sense that my dad's a very, very spiritual human, and he said to me when he heard about CLA, I was sharing it, blah, 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 blah. I was talking about it, all excited about it. And he said, how does your faith fit into that? And I'm like, well, you know what? I think most of the people I know that are doing really serious, intentional personal development understand that there's call it whatever you want, infinite intelligence. I call God Papa because of the relationship, but some kind of spiritual piece they attach into that somehow. So however they identify that piece, to be well-rounded and balanced, you need to have that piece in it, right? So yeah, is it a Christian book? No. Is it a religious book? No. I hate religion with a passion. I really do. It's
I'm not sure. I'm not sure even Jesus liked religion.
Absolutely not, right? Absolutely.
So.
Religion by definition is to bind up, right? So it's man's finite brain trying to understand an infinite God. And there's just as soon as you tell me there's no beginning and no end, I'm out, because my brain it melts and goes, I don't understand that. So now it's about faith. And if I take that with faith, then all the other pieces are the faith just sort of sits in the middle of all of that, right? I have to take it by faith, right?
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a good way that you talk about that. Now, is this book, so you got to be part of that, part of this book?
Yeah.
Correct. You had a story that you told in this book.
Right.
Do you have other books that you've written yourself?
No, I'm in the process of putting out a book right this minute, actually. Probably should land middle of the year. That's 100% my stuff. And it's basically a letter to my 18-year-old self. Literally, what would I have liked to have been told when I was 18, from all the things I've learned. So it's probably going to end up being a 4 book series, because I can't get it all into one book. Right. But
so as I'm writing this book, I understand that, right? I'm like, man, there's, so mine's going to launch right with Emilio and those guys in January. And it is so hard. I'm 61 now, right? So what an interesting book. What I talk to myself that all the time. And so I tell my kids all the time, my sons, I said, look, if I could talk to myself at your age, there is something that you should be doing. I wished, I don't know, I'm interested in what you think. What's your number one thing you can tell yourself back when you were younger?
That's a good question. As the very first piece, well, because I've been sick, self-care becomes a massive, massive deal for me. So it's okay to run 300 miles an hour with your hair on fire. Do that. You're right. Like all the people I look up to and want to emulate, they're all running 300 miles an hour with their hair on fire. So it's not about pacing necessarily. What it's about is looking after yourself. So they build into their day, and whether that's at the beginning or the end or during or whatever. If they need a nap in the middle of the afternoon, they take a nap. If they need personal time for meditating or for eating and all, like, and that sounds like a silly thing, but a lot of times I would go the whole day without eating, and then would eat at 1 o'clock in the morning and then go to bed, which was horrendous, right? So listening to your body and understanding, hey, when you need a break, take the break, right? Like, build that into your schedule, because like I say, it's okay to run hard, but you have to look after yourself, right?
I 100%. Isn't it funny? Most older guys now that I talk to, that's what comes out of their mouth is, I wish I wish I was understood. Even now, yeah, I've been teaching martial arts now for what, 35, 40 years now, something like that, right?
Wow.
And so, and how we trained, and even how I lifted weights back in the day,
Right.
If I could tell my younger self, work on functional fitness,
Right.
stretching,
Yep.
and proper nutrition.
Right. You're bulletproof, though, right? When you're that age, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt me. The problem is, it is hurting you. You just don't realize it's hurting you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, if we paid attention to what's going on, right? We have this thing in our head, and I laugh with my boys, and you probably do with your kids. I remember one time when my oldest son was real little, and you're just starting to get used to, parenting and how that works, and right things you say, oh, I'd never do that, what my parents had done to me. I will never do that, and I won't say that, and whatever. And I remember my son did something that he shouldn't have, and I said, hey, this is your consequence for doing what you did, and this is your consequence for making me sound like my mom. I have to swear that would never come out, but you find, well, I might not make the mistakes my mom made or my parents made, but I'll make a whole whack of my own mistakes. And so, I wouldn't probably have listened to me at 16 or 18 either, right?
Uh-huh.
We all seem to go through that as a generational thing. Oh, the old people don't know what they're talking about, because they don't have that wisdom yet. It's not there, right? I find once people get to their 40s, 45 into their 50s, they start to pick up this, just because life has happened to them, right? They've
Right.
been married, or they've been through that cycle. They've have kids, they've had jobs and careers and whatnot. So they have a level of wisdom that wasn't there when they were young, right?
Right. I often think how God designed us was like
It's backwards,
right? But it's like but isn't it right? You got to go through you've got to mud through the crap in order to emerge in victory. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know how else to say it. I have had these ups and downs, and watching people fight through things health wise too. You know what I mean? I something happened to me too. Back in, I don't know, was it 2019 now or 2018, one of the two, when I just injured myself, and I was punching something, and I hit my leg, and then I got blood clots. And it almost took me out, right?
Yeah.
I thought this said a bunch of whiners in the house today for this interview. I'm like, what the heck, Jose? What? It says winners. I'm like, who's freaking Grant? I'm like, that was funny. Well, then again, yesterday it was like you sent me a message saying, hey, it looks like I'm talking to your wife for 30 years. I had to fix that. What? So when I had that major medical thing, it was a real mind game for me for 6 months, until I just had to completely change my thought process on what that was. And I remember too, being a young guy, I power lifted a lot when I was a young man. I mean, I just didn't, the diet really wasn't an issue. I just want to know how much metal I can put up in the air. You know what I mean? And squatting 625, 650 pounds,
wow.
right?
Wow.
And just going, blah, and then, and now today, my knees, well, one's fake, right? I have a fake knee. And one is, I'm like, I'm not going through that again, because it already took away from my jiu-jitsu game a little bit, right? And I'm like, I'm not doing that, 'cause I'm not your average, I'm not your average 61-year-old. I'm still getting on the mat with these 30, 25, 30-year-old kids, and
Absolutely.
Either getting my ass kicked or giving them a little bit of who's your daddy sometimes, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely. But you don't look 61.
that's
Actually, they're reversed. I turned 54 on the weekend, and I look older than you do.
well, I'm afraid if I grew my beard out like you did, I would have that typical Santa Claus look. I'm convinced of it as we go. You know what I mean? So that's for sure. So I want to talk about this. So I love the idea of your book. And is that something you're doing on your own? Are you with Emilio and Daniela, or is this something you're just kind of producing on your own?
So far, it's been on my own. I may at some point. Once it's right there, it's at an editor's at the moment, and we're trying to edit through what's there.
That's good.
Yeah, so we'll get there.
That's great. So let's talk about is it pronounced Jewil in
Jewil? So that's an acronym. Yeah,
that's an acronym. Okay, what's the acronym mean?
So Jandon, J is Jandon. That's my wife and so her name's Janessa and my name's Gordon. So the first of 3 of hers and the last 3 of mine for Jandon. And then empowerment with intention, life coaching. Okay. So I'm a big empowerment guy. I'm a big intentional guy that I got from John Maxwell. We're all going to grow.
Love him, by the way.
Yeah, I love John. So it's kind of our tagline is polishing the diamond within, because the jewel's already there. The piece is already inside us all. Most of us need help finding it and then polishing it, pulling it out. When they asked Michelangelo about his David, how did you come up with something so beautiful? He said, no, it was always there. I just took off the rough spots, right? So similar idea in the sense that the diamond, the jewels are already inside of us. It becomes how do we polish that? How do we bring that out? The answers are already there. Sometimes we need a guide. So I run with a title, so to speak, of Catalyst Strategist Guide. And for obvious reasons on some of it, I prefer guide. I don't want a travel agent, someone that just sends me. So I want someone I want somebody in the trench with me, enjoying going through whatever the battles, whatever they're experiencing it with me, right? So when I approach my coaching, that's the idea, that I'm a catalyst to try and change, because I find lots of times one pivotal decision we make can change the whole direction of our life, right? So when I was young, I got into the car business and I saw Grant Cardone 3 months in, which was awesome. He turned me from a 12 to 15 car guy to a 40 car a month guy. And so then I was headhunted to go and help train with him and teach his stuff. And, but that pivotal decision to do that, right? At the time I was thinking, yeah, no big deal. I'll just go do this. No big deal. But the gentleman that was looking after Grant at the time, Bob Moore, had put Zig Ziglar on his first stage, and nobody knew who Zig was until Bob got a hold of him. Bob was a promoter. So we had unbridled access to Zig Ziglar, literally. He used to sit across, it warms my heart every time I hear somebody go, I can have whatever I want as long as I help enough other people get what they want, which was a big Zig thing. But when he said that to me, he had egg yolk running down his chin because he was sitting across the breakfast table from me. And I knew that was special, but I didn't realize how special. And Zig put us on put me on my personal development journey. So he told me, you should be reading 4 to 6 books a month, every month. You should be journaling, and this is how you journal, and this is where you would journal. So I now have been journaling for 30 years, personal, business, general, gratitude, and goals. Those are all different books. I'll walk into a theater. My friends give me a hard time. I walk into a theater with a journal in my hand. They're like, you're going to sit in the dark for 2 hours. What are you doing? But you never know when inspiration comes. I don't want to be able to write stuff down. So conferences and plugging into people. And he plugged us into, I was already plugged to Grant, but he plugged me into the John Maxwell's and the Jim Rohns and the Tony Robbins and Les Brown and all these iconic thought leaders that really have shaped my direction. And a lot of my own information stems out of a lot of that stuff. I have taken the Napoleon Hill, to be able to teach Think and Grow Rich, to teach the laws of success. And that, even that, if you boil all that down, it's mindset, which is, again, something my 18-year-old self didn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference, and I
That's
think
true.
you and, right, what I think you and I had talked about was, any sports team, any business person, whether we follow them or not, if you and I know who they are, you say a name and we both go, yep, I know who that is, regardless of whether I follow that team or follow that business. Those are people that understand how their mind works and then have mastered control of their mind and their emotion. And I think a lot of people either haven't done that or don't want to do that, because it's really difficult. It's really hard. But the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little bit of extra. But I think that extra is executing a plan, right? I think a lot of people have a plan, just don't execute it, whether that's fear, whatever stops them from doing that, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You've probably heard it said, graveyard is the most expensive real estate there is, because of all the things people took to the grave with them, all their ideas and thoughts and all that creative stuff that didn't get pulled out, that they didn't access because they were afraid it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't, no one wants to listen to that, or whatever. They didn't get past their own stuff, and took it to the grave with them. I think we have to be able to tell our story. We have to be able to get out what's going on. And it's not a matter of people listening to our sad tale. It's more giving hope to somebody else, right? So even if you're not giving the tools to get through it, the fact that you got through it means I can get through it. And that gives me hope, right?
Right. Yeah, those definitely. I echo what Jose says here, that wise words for sure.
I appreciate that.
So Zig Ziglar,
Mm.
he coined a phrase too called "Born to Win,"
Mm-hmm.
and we use that in my martial arts school all the time. As a matter of fact, when I hear Zig Ziglar's name, it just reflects back on when I learned from when I was going back, and he's like, you're born to win, and so I use that as a slogan in my school.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, even one of my black belts that was killed in 1994 by a drunk driver, it's on his gravestone, "Born to Win."
Wow.
And
Wow.
and so we've used that. I talk about being a warrior, and a warrior having purpose, and what's their purpose is to build a more peaceful world. And where do you start that? In your heart. And I tell the kids, you're in the club now, you're in the Meeser Warrior Club, but there is a passcode, and it's called "Born to Win." So when I see you walk into school, what do you say to me? And you say, "I'm born to win, sir." And then I said, "And so am I." And that's our secret password. I've used that forever from Zig Ziglar.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's something I've incorporated in my school for such a long time.
That's
so it's
amazing.
always good to hear. It's so unfortunate when we lost him, but
it is.
So
absolutely.
When you're coaching now, so what's your typical person that's looking for your life coaching? How do you go about finding it? How do you go about, and who's kind of your client? What does that look like?
When I was doing that full time, most of my clients were professional athletes, and that happened by accident. Oh, not by accident. That's divine. But anyway, I was sick at the time and was doing a Tony Robbins certification. I think I'm certified in half a dozen things with him, but I was doing one of his programs in bed, and one of my buddies, because of the time I spent with Grant on the road, I have friends all over the US and Canada. And a buddy of mine put on his Facebook wall, "What are the top 5 books you've ever read?" And so I responded, put 5 or 6 in, and went back and put 5 or 6 more. And this gentleman engaged me that wasn't my buddy and not on my wall. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he asked a bunch of questions, and I answered the questions, and then he disappeared. And then the next day I get a friend request from him. And I don't just say yes to everybody. So I vetted him a little bit and found out he was on another continent. So I figured maybe he was safe. And so I said yes. And he said, hey, and as soon as I said yes, I get all these messenger messages, like a mash of words and pictures and stuff. I'm like, what the hell? So I go back up through it. And he goes, "Thank you so much for your time you spent with me yesterday. You told me I should be journaling. So this morning I went and bought 3 journals, and I wrote out my goals, and I wrote out my gratitudes, and I took pictures. I'm sorry for the chicken scratch, and did I write them out properly and blah." And I'm like, "Wow, you're like wildly coachable." So I said, "I do have a life coach practice if that's of interest to you." And my wife's kind of looked at me and goes, "You don't have one of those." I said, "I will, don't worry." So I said, right. So he said, I sent one. Or first I called Mark Patient and said, "Hey, the people that look after Tony's education classes are Mark and Magna Patient." And I called Mark and said, "Hey, what do I do with this? And how do I set up memberships and whatever?" So he helped me put stuff together. And then, and even the progression of that, right? They teach 150, 200 bucks an hour for a starting coach. And I'm like, "Okay." And he says, "Yeah, but you're not a starting coach." And I'm like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he said, "Well, I wouldn't be charging less than 1,500 bucks an hour for what you do." And I'm like, I couldn't even conceive that or say it out of my mouth at the time. So we agreed at 500 bucks an hour. And so I sent that off. We put packages together. I sent it off. No hesitation whatsoever. Instantly, I get a response back that says, "Yeah, hey, I'm in. What's the next step?" I said, "You need an onboarding form." And my wife's like, "You don't have an onboarding form." "Oh, I will have by tomorrow." So I put that together. I sent it off to him, and he sent some money back, and away we went. Well, I find out he's a professional soccer player in the UK. And so we do 3 or 4 sessions. And then he says to me, one of my mates on the pitch, and I knew what the mate was, but I didn't know what what a pitch was. He had to explain that to me. But he says, one of my buddies on soccer buddies said to me they noticed a difference in the way I approach things, and my thought process had changed, and I don't react or respond the way I used to. And what was I doing? And he said, "Oh, I've got a coach in Canada." "Oh, will he work with me?" I don't know. So consequently, that led to a bunch of soccer players between the UK and Australia, New Zealand, and a bunch of American football players in obviously in the US that all sort of one after the other, after the other, after the other. Just by organically grew. I didn't have to do anything. I started to raise the price because they all said, "Hey, you got to charge us more," which is always the best kind of client to have. But one of the last ones in Australia, I almost messed it up because he said, "Hey, I got your name from," and he says the fee is $2,000 an hour and blah, 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 blah. And I almost went, "No, that's not right." But I went back to the guy that referred him and said, "What did you do?" And he goes, "Well, I've referred you and I keep telling you got to charge me more. So I gave you a raise." I'm like, "Thank you so much." But it was an epiphany after that they're not paying a coach for his or her time. What they're paying for is the result. So, right, if that happens in 5 minutes, great. If it takes 6 months or 2 years, great. But they're paying for a result. So I've stopped doing the hourly thing. But that particular guy, he bought an hour and then cut it in 4. So I would talk to him at 4 a.m. my time every Friday morning. And it was sort of a lightning round piece where he just sort of, I would give him an idea and he would take that. And the next week we would talk about it. And he would tell me what he's done. And I asked him one time, "Why do you spend 500 bucks for 15 minutes with me?" And he said, "You know what?" He said, not only do I play pro ball, I own a gym, and going home from work on a Tuesday or Wednesday, he said, "I love to surf. But he said, as I'm going down the coastline to get home, I can see the waves crashing. And I'm like, oh, I want to go. I want to go surf. But he says, I know if I haven't done my homework, I am not going to get on the phone with you at 4 a.m. for you and be embarrassed because I didn't do the exercise I told you I needed to do so that I could get where I said I wanted to go, first of all. And I don't want to waste the 500 bucks. So it was accountability for him. It held his feet to the fire, right? And that sort of led me, because at the time I was still doing some financial stuff and looking after about $20 million for people in the financial world. And so that wasn't connecting to me anymore. And when I had the conversation with this gentleman, the one morning he got on and he was like, so fast, you could tell he was jacked up and excited. And he stops at one point and he says, "Are you okay?" Because we were on Zoom. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Go. And he fast. And all of a sudden he stops again. "Are you sure you're all right?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Go. And he talks, and all of a sudden he stops. He says, can you stop the timer? I'm like, yeah. So I stopped the timer. I said, what? He says, are you crying? And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. He goes, no, no, no. Why are you crying? And I'm like, you know what? The money you pay for the session, I'm going to spend on bills or food or whatever, right? But listen to you. You've taken the information I gave you and have changed your life. Listen to you talk. And that connects to my soul. And I sort of, in that moment, went, you know what? Unless it connects to me, like deeply connects to me, I don't care how much money is being made from it. I don't care. It doesn't matter even how good it is. If it doesn't connect to my soul, I'm at a point in my life, I don't want to do it anymore. And so I retired out of the financial stuff and focused 100% on coaching and speaking and getting that story out.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. One thing that you said in here, and I've learned that, creative people and a lot of the writers, the authors that I'm kind of introduced to at this point, because I'm in the midst of doing that. Everybody talks about journaling, right? Everybody does. And I suck at that, just so you know what I mean? So
you keep telling yourself that it'll stay that way.
And I'm just like, I tell myself in my head, okay, you're going to bring this book with you. I just ordered these from Jose, by the way. I got them a couple of weeks ago.
They're awesome.
You want to know how much I've written in it? Nothing. And so, but they look really good on my shelf. And I get on people all the time about that. You got yours too. That's right.
Yeah.
So I get on people all the time. I said, I think people like to look at the books on their shelves just to say that if I read all those, I'd be really smart. But but at least it looks like I'm smart. I think so. I mean, I tell everybody I'm pretty real when it comes to things. And in my head, that journaling is, and I've even lost the art of that. Even in I remember when I used to go to church, and I'd listen and I'd write in my Bible and I'd sit there and I do that. I barely do that anymore either. I think it's it's this device right here that makes us lazy. That we don't write. And I've told myself, you know what, I'm gonna I talk about being a disciplined human being all the time, and I can't even write every day. Now it's pissing me off. So now today, now that I put it out here on here, I'm going to get that thing, and I'm going to start making a goal in myself to do that, because it then, like even in my jiu-jitsu class, right? I wished I had the little book. The coach says something real quick, and I'm like, oh, I got to write that down. I got to remember that. I don't remember it. No. I don't remember squat.
No.
And so
that's why I take the book around.
I'm like this visionary, and I'm always kind of like this, and I'm hyped up in front of a crowd, and I'm a born to win warrior, and I get everybody hyped up, but the little details I lack sometimes in, and God knows how much I miss because I don't write things. Even in my own thought processes, sometimes when I'm speaking off the cuff, I'm like, ooh, that was a good one. I should use that more often. And then I'm like, what the heck did I say that last time? I tell all my kids all the time, I don't have Alzheimer's. I have sometimers. Sometimes I don't remember squat that I'm saying, but it sure sounds good at the time, right? And so
let me make it easier for you. Take away your expectation. So I think when the part that people seem to fall down on is that the expectation is I'm going to sit down and write pages and pages and pages. Right. And that's not the case. Sometimes I'll sit down and go, you know what, for whatever reason, I don't have it in me today, or it's just, there's just not that inspired thing isn't there. And I'll write a few lines and I'm done. Some days you sit down and go, oh, and you just vomit all over the place. I'll write 10, 15 pages, right? It just comes out of you. But if the expectation, I've taken expectation out of my life in lots of different ways, because disappointment by definition is an unmet expectation, right? Mm-hmm. So, Dennis talks about the why. You're trying to put it out there. If you feel the benefit of it is bigger than the pain of discipline of doing it, right? Then you'll find a way to get it done, right? But if you find a way that your brain goes, I don't have to sit down and write pages and pages. Maybe I only write a word or two. Maybe I write just a little bit, right? But you'll find, like I say, some days you find I can write and write and write and write, and then other days it's just a few words. But when I do that, same as your 75 hard, right?
Yeah.
If you miss a day, it's about all those little things built up. And so you do a little journal, a little bit every day. And then at the end of the day, you go, no, I journaled. I put something in, and someone goes, yeah, it's a sentence. Because the shadow inside us will go, oh, yeah, stop that. Don't get over yourself. You only wrote one sentence. It's like, yeah, but you know what? It doesn't say write a book every day. It says write something.
That's correct. That's good.
Right.
Awesome advice. I laugh at it because I laugh at myself. Like, I am I'm a pretty disciplined dude, right? And I'm like, and I tell all my students the same stuff. Stop making excuses, and here I am today making an excuse. You know what? That's why I like to punch myself sometimes right in the jaw, just to wake myself up a little bit. It's funny about the podcast. I've told everybody my podcasting thing started because I wanted to have this is like my journal for my kid, right?
Yeah,
that's perfect. What I really started it for. So when
Legacy.
I'm not around, my kids always have something that, hey, this is what my dad thought. This is how my dad is.
Yep.
And in the beginning, I did podcasting. It was just me. I was just talking, and maybe my journey on 75 hard, or losing 100 and something pounds, and what was it like to be fat and have be a world champion martial artist? Because the being heavy and an athlete, they just don't coincide. But how did I make that work? Right. And how did I lift massive weights, and all that stuff that I wanted my kids to know why your dad is like he is. Why is your dad kind of a protector, kind of a sheepdog, and why do I have a heart for those that are disabled and can't stick up for themselves and that kind of thing. So that's where my podcasting started. And this is going to be something for me today, Gordon. Now I wasn't expecting to be slapped in the face that you are an undisciplined jerk off and not writing every day. And
I didn't say that. Just
I'm saying it. This is my self-talk. I'm like, listen, bro, don't go. This is me in my head. I'm like, listen, bro, don't go around speaking like you're all disciplined and then you can't write a sentence a day. Because our one Emilio has us helping us with the writing, because the writing process is not easy for me on the book thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like I'm so scatterbrained on what I learned and over these years, and my book called Beyond the Mat is these are my life lessons that I've taken from blood, sweat, and tears on the mat, and then you go out and how do I take everything I've learned and I take it outside the mat? Because I've tell everybody too, the mat it's a precious thing. When you step on it, it cares nothing. It has no emotion. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your color, creed, what you do, nothing. All it cares about is how you're going to perform on it, and it's going to reveal your character. Now, it builds character, but it certainly reveals it really, really quick. Absolutely. When you get pissed off at yourself or you are whatever, however that looks, right?
Right.
And so listening to you today, I'm like, man, I am not as disciplined as I think. And, I get that weakness, right? I get that little weakness in there.
We all do.
And I'm like, I got to change that, man. I've got these great journals. They look really good on my shelf, and they're collecting dust and not using pen to paper.
It's called a knowing doing gap. We know what to do. We just don't always do it. Right.
Right. Well, I think that, my other student, Jason, that Emilio's on right now, he does something every year. It's quite a thing he does. He does it on his phone real quick. And he just like, I don't know, maybe he came and took a lesson with me and he'll writes that down. And he writes it down. And then at the end of the year, January 1st, he writes everything positive that he did throughout the whole year, right? So he's got this 200-300 thing, just quick pins. Hey, took a lesson with Mr. Cox today on Krav Maga, had a great workout with him, and or this, or went to church, and or whatever it was that they did for the day. So I don't know. I think this is worth, I think even this talk with you, Gordon, is going to help me kind of launch, because she told me the same thing. When you're going to write a book, just write a couple hundred words a day. It's
Right.
not really that much. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And then on days that you're not inspired, like you talk about, then you're not inspired. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. You just write a little bit.
Dennis has given us some good feedback today too.
It's awesome.
And yeah, I appreciate that too, Dennis. You got some good stuff in here. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
transparent, dude. I'm not, and I'll tell you where it came from. I wasn't always transparent, to be honest with you. I think I was like most of the crowd until I read Jocko's book on extreme ownership. And yes, I that book changed me. I'm doing 75 hard and reading that book. And after
Awesome.
that, I was like, man, don't give me any excuses anymore. Just shut your mouth, right? Shut
Absolutely.
up and show up is what I used to tell everybody. Just shut
Right.
your mouth and show up. Okay.
Yep.
That's all I want to see at this point, and even in myself. So I think that was a powerful thing. And I think the story I tell most people about extreme ownership, and tell me if you agree, is like, let's just say a younger me, when
Mm-hmm.
I would have bill collectors at that time, would
Mm-hmm.
call me, and I'd hammer the guy across the other phone. You don't call me, and you don't da da da. Well, it's not his fault I didn't pay my bill.
Right.
I don't know how many phone calls do they get through the day. It's like, you know what? That's my bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's my bad. I should have,
Right.
I have no excuse for it. But whether you can or cannot do, but at least you take some ownership in what you're
Right.
in your journey.
Right.
And that was a pivotal thing for me today. Listening to
Absolutely.
you speak about, you're a typical entrepreneur. You know what I mean? You just like,
Mm-hmm.
you had the idea. You're like, well, I don't have it today, but I'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we fake it till we make it. And
Or
and
faith it till you make it.
yeah, that's true too. And so I've done that many times, but too, I wasn't told I'd have a martial arts school. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
told pretty much that I don't know how you're going to do that, and went back. And I don't, if you know my story, I started my martial arts school as a ministry. I started in my church,
Right.
and with my brother and a couple of other gentlemen, and it just kind of grew. And after a couple of years, the church was like, hey man, it's getting too big. We can't let outside people come in. I said, well, that's what we're trying to do, right?
Absolutely.
And I said, maybe it's time that I branch down. We'll keep the church thing going for those that really can't afford to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have that. And then that's what we did for many, many years. And that's how I kind of started
Very cool.
my martial arts school, but was through a ministry. And
Right.
so it was great. So this international that you have, this just Jewil International, what does it consist of then? What do you guys do in there? Is this more coaching? Is that what this is?
It's a combination. I put that as the umbrella. So we coach with that. I write from it. I speak from it. So we do paid speaking from that in terms of mindset. A big deal on mindset, where our brains are at. A lot of things, and sharing the story. Something that I was always a producing type guy, right? Go 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 go. And then when I got sick and did the suicide thing, I think that put me in a space where I still believe that was Papa slowing me down enough to get my attention and giving me some scope. So you and I have talked about that before, and I know lots of people have heard that life's not happening to, it's happening for. And then my brain goes, yep, it's happening for me to specifically and uniquely equip me to be able to help other people get through what I went through. And so I didn't have any empathy in terms of mental awareness, which I think mental awareness incorporates mental illness, mental health, all that stuff is incorporated, because I think there's a lot of other things that we kind of sweep under the carpet. So mental awareness, until I become aware of it, I can't deal with it, right? A drunk, I can have the best program there is, but until they go, no, I'm an alcoholic, I can't help them. So that awareness is there. So being able to do that in a space that gives specifically entrepreneurial men, I'll work with anybody, but entrepreneurial men is where my heart is, because that's what I was, right? And I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know what to look for, and I didn't want to even admit to myself. And that's a huge deal for me. When I hear people say, well, we got to stop the stigma, and I'm like, stop using that word. I think it's a civilized, sanitized word that we use so that we don't have to actually admit what we're doing, which is judging. So I'm saying they're messed up. I'm better than them because I don't have to deal with that. Now, I have a whole bunch of my own things I have to deal with, but I don't deal with that. So I think if everybody kind of understands we're all on a spectrum, we're all on the mental awareness spectrum. It doesn't have to be full-blown schizophrenia or PTSD or depression or suicide or whatever on the far end of it. Maybe it's just a little bit of stress and anxiety or depression at home because of work or a job or the kids or whatever. That still puts me on that spectrum. And so once that becomes inclusive and we all go, no, 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 all of us are on that spectrum, then people will reach out for help because there's no shame and embarrassment, right? There's no judgment that comes with that. And I think as long as we hold judgment on people, they're going to choose suicide over asking for help because in the moment, you feel like you're doing them a favor. Right? I'd always said, well, it's a selfish thing to do. It's the easy way out. Why do they do that? And having been in that space now, my brain has a completely different look of that, right? And my brain goes, no, no. I was thinking I was doing my family and my friends a favor by not being here anymore. They don't have to deal with me and all the crap that I'm having to deal with and the baggage, and I'm just a millstone around their neck. So I'm doing them a favor. And so in that moment, why would you reach out and ask for help? You're doing the help. That's where your brain is at. But I didn't understand that. I didn't have awareness of that until it happened to me. And then I sit back and go, okay, wait. Hold the phone. There needs to be places where men, especially men, can reach out because we want to sort of put our emotion in a box. We were taught, hey, don't show weakness, don't cry, don't show emotion. So we have those things and we put it in a box and we put it on the shelf and then we go, hey, I don't want to have to deal with that. The problem is we still have pain from that stuff. So now we go out and do drugs or drink or gamble, or now we have an addiction on top of the pain because it didn't take the original problem away. And so what I'm trying to do is teach men, hey, you know what? There are strategies and tools to be able to deal with stress and anxiety in a positive way so that you don't end up on the other end of that scale and looking to give your soul back to Papa. And there are positive, and to make it available to people, because I think a lot of times, and I know even in Ontario, in Canada, we have free healthcare, but if I go and try and get mental help, I'm going to wait 2 years. Well, that's too long. And if I go and try and pay for it, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to get somebody to, that's not right either. So trying to get under that jewel piece, whether it's speaking to get the story out so that people understand, hey, and to connect. I have a program that I had started and then got waylaid because I got sick, but I'm going to go back to it. I make that commitment to you on your show, to go back to 10 million men in 24 months, which was a program I wanted. I want to have meaningful connection with 10 million men globally to give them that message of hope. And I use hope as an acronym, help other people everywhere. But give them that message of hope that, hey, there are ways to deal with this stuff in a positive way so that you don't get bogged down. And through an organization and through all the different bits and pieces. And I know John Maxwell does a thing where he'll teach people with the assumption, and with not even the assumption, with their commitment that they will teach 1,000 other people what he just taught them. So if he's got 150 people in front of him, he doesn't really have 150 people in front of him. And that's how the message just starts to wave out, right? So preaching that message of inclusion, preaching that message of mental awareness, understanding how our brain works. And that's a big Napoleon Hill thing, right? That's a big, first understand your brain and then understand how to master what's there, your brain and your emotion, your mind and your emotion. Because once you can harness that, you really can go anywhere, right? The difference between stimulus react, which is what a lot of times we do, usually gets us in trouble. We have the ability as humans to pause in between those two pieces. And then we're not reacting, we're responding, right? So,
right. Yeah, that's good.
Right. Understanding. And as a parent, right, they do something silly or say something dumb. And I have a visceral reaction to that. And to go, no, Gord, hold on. Put some pause in there first, right? Don't go off all half-cocked. Make sure you understand. Do you have all the information? Maybe you don't need to respond, right? Maybe you do, but maybe it needs to be measured. And I think if we stop and pause, it's written on my bedroom wall right at the top: stimulus, pause, respond so that I remember.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Really good in there. I think I agree with you 100% on when it comes to men's mental health. That is a it's a stigma. I'm in that military law enforcement world,
Mm-hmm.
and I even went through some chaplain stuff just to kind of go out with guys. Because I'm more the, you got Christians that are really straight and narrow, and you got ones that kind of wobble, and in life, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you got those that can walk on water and those that tread. I'm more the
Yeah.
treader, and so I can relate to these guys in life and going through divorce and what that looks like, and just having another guy to kind of talk to has helped out even in my own family. I'll tell you the hardest thing. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like this, but I have a son that dealt with eating disorder as far as throwing up. You just don't hear men talk about it. You don't hear anything. I cannot find anyone to help my son
Right.
in that area. None. Nobody takes it on. Nobody talks about it. And so his out is him and I speaking about it,
Right.
and trying to get his head right, and I couldn't find anybody. I still can't. We still can't.
Wow.
We can't find somebody that deals with men's, whether it's body dysmorphia or it's eating disorders or anything like that for men, mental health.
Yeah.
Can't find it.
I'll take a look. I know a couple of people that do something like that. Let me reach out to them and see where they're at.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to get that help for my son. So yeah, I'm totally I'm totally down when I hear about. You're correct about that. I mean, this is why you have different type of men too, right? You got I would be what you call those typical type A alpha men, right?
Yeah.
Just balls to the wall all the
Right.
time, super competitive. I'll take it on the chin.
Right.
And then I'll be by myself in the weight room. Sometimes and if lifting the heavy weights just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of brings me somewhere. Music going on in your head and just going that. And sometimes I'm praying and pushing, you know what I mean? So sometimes that's what it is. This is some prayer time, and you're pushing iron, and sometimes tears are coming down your eyes and you don't even know why, because if I didn't have that physical outlet, this is me. If I don't have a physical outlet, whether it's on the mat, and when it was taken away from me because I had to go on blood thinners and I couldn't fight, I couldn't take head contact anymore. So, and that was, man, I'd love to put gloves on and get down and get hit and hit people. I loved it. Right. Bloodied up, but battle worn. And it was like it was like, I don't know, it was just like exercising demons almost. Right. And then it got taken away. Yeah. And then jiu-jitsu came along, and I was like, wow, I can be a warrior again, have that same endorphins, and not get punched in the face as much. And so it was, believe it or not, I know it's really weird, but I know certain men listen to me right now are going, I know exactly what he's talking about. It's a cleansing for us to kind of exercise this stuff out of us physically. And it's probably why I really enjoy lifting. You know what I mean? I just do. And sometimes my workouts suck, but I just kind of I like hearing the clang of the iron. I like pushing the iron. I like all that kind of stuff. And other men just, and they think of it different. There's other, not all my sons are like me. That's for darn sure. Matter of fact, none of them are super alpha, like I'm super alpha dad, right? And so they're like, Dad, you're just like a little bit over the top with motivation and stuff. And so it's been that's so refreshing to hear something that is kind of geared towards men. I think that's just listening to what we talk about today, some more virtual coffees, because I find in my world, a martial arts school is a lot like a church. You know what I mean? It's a community, and you get intertwined with people's lives, and times that people won't go to a church, but they certainly would come into my office, whether it's men in tears that say, hey, my wife has left me, or hey,
Yeah.
I'm struggling with anger here, and this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and even myself, when I was
Yeah.
going through a divorce, I put myself through anger management.
Hmm.
And I went in a very uncomfortable zone where I went to a group. So you have a
Wow.
group of men,
Wow.
and you got the teacher. And
Right.
that is really, it was really good, because I'm like, wow, I'm not as messed up as I thought. Why these guys are bouncing their spouses off the bedpost and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm like, because they're all
Yeah.
court appointed. I
Yep.
went in on my own, and
Right.
to try and get some techniques to help me, so I don't flip out.
Right.
When and I tell a lot of men like myself, are military guys too, and they kind of flip out. And when you're dangerous,
Yeah.
it could change your whole life if you don't have your control.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can change everything in a split seconds. If you hurt somebody, if you
True.
kill somebody, or something to that, your whole world can come. And I needed something to suppress that, and give me the techniques that to do. So super refreshing to hear that
Hmm.
that's what this is. So let's talk about where to find you and stuff like that. Let's put some of that in the chat, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact. Where
The
so is this
email's the easiest way. I
okay?
am on Facebook. I tried to put um, my Twitter and my Instagram out there, but the easiest way is email.
So are
Um,
you in front of a machine right there? Do you see our comments? Can you see the comments or not?
no, I can't see comment.
Okay, so I'm going to write it in there for you. So tell me your email.
Oh, yep. It's JEWIL coaching.
JEWIL coaching, COACH coaching. Okay.
Yeah, at gmail.com.
And now I got that out there on how to make sure I spelled that right. I'm going to put this up on screen as soon as I hit it. Okay.
Okay,
And make
that's the
sure that
easiest way. It really is.
okay.
You want to
Does that
reach
look
out to
right?
me?
Does that look right there, sir?
No, there's a dot. There's a period between the L and the C.
Okay. There's
Jewel.
a period in there. Okay. Hold on.
That's
Let me
right.
fix it.
Jewel dot
Let me fix
coaching.
it. Okay. Let me fix
Yeah.
that while we're here. JEW
IL
dot
coaching.
COA.
Yep. 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 Yeah, that's the easiest way. I mean, you can reach out to me on Facebook. I'll as soon as I see they're connected to you, I'll say yes to them.
Yes,
Um,
I saw. Well, I saw that too, man. You're almost at that 5,000 mark,
I
where
am.
you have to start either dropping friends, or you have to go to a different kind of a platform.
That's right.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, and this is that correct, sir? Did I get that right that
Yep.
time?
That's perfect. Perfect.
Okay, good. All
Yep.
right.
That's awesome.
So I got that out there, and we'll put that in. So you'll be, just so you guys know. So by end of day today, I'll have this on my audio portion too. So everything I do on video, I have on audio, so people can drive and listen to it.
Yeah.
They can find it pretty easily just at markcox.com is my
Okay.
website. It has all my podcasts, the audio podcasts are there, and I think this platform just there you go. You got that on a private chat right there. I got it. And you can find that, and this will be an audio format. You'll be able to share it with everybody, and everybody can kind of
Cool.
get on and listen to what we talked about today. I'll push it out there on my side a little bit more.
Yeah.
If they want to see us on video too, that's always kind of up and going. But I
Okay.
started with audio. It's what I like the most, because when I drive, I like listening to podcasts anyway. I always have.
Absolutely.
And it's good. And I'll go back and listen to us talking today
I will too.
to see how many times I said and like that. And then so I listen to myself. I'm like, you sound like a dork, bro.
We all do it though.
And
You're
but
doing a great thing though, Mark. You
I
really
tell
are.
everybody, I said it's pretty real, because this is just kind of how we talk.
Right.
You know what I mean, when we're talking to
Yeah.
each other. And I said it's just what it is. It's pretty authentic.
It is.
And so this was been this is, I keep posted with what we're doing. I wouldn't mind picking your brain a little bit more with some virtual
Sure.
coffee because,
I'm in.
I've got, I'm surrounded by alpha type dudes anyway. That's, if you are one, you're surrounded by them, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and you'd be surprised on how emotional most of them are, and just how trapped some of them are in their own
Yeah.
heads, and
Yeah.
what that looks like.
Absolutely.
And trying to be the you know the tough guy. That's why
Right.
I think that's what we like jujitsu so much when we're on the mat, because when there's just a bond that happens when you either bleed together, sweat together, and
True.
and you're able to break down barriers where you can talk together.
Right.
It's just how men are built. Men are
Yep.
just different. Men are just
True.
built that way different. Not all men are
Absolutely.
the same, but
No, but
most of the guys that I hang with are like that. So
well, and as long as guys hold that stuff inside, it becomes not ease. So dis-ease, disease, right? We hold that in our body. When we push it down and hold it inside, it's going to come out somewhere. And a lot of times it comes out in illness. It comes out in ways that we didn't ever anticipate, right? So being able to find ways to deal with that stuff in a positive way and let it out and release it, and finding, no matter what it is. Some people will journal, some people will work out, some people will fight, some people will, however it is that you need to get it out, whatever breaks through that. And my experience with alpha has been, once they understand you care about them and love them, right? And that's not a I want you love. That's human. Hey, you know what? You're a guy. I'm a guy. We're both humans. I give a shit about what happens to you.
right.
Right. Once they understand that, they'll open a little bit. And once there's a crack and they find a specific place where it's a trusted environment, they'll open up. And a lot of them they're alpha on the outside as a tough armor coping mechanism, so that nobody realizes what a puppy they are.
Yeah, we're a milk toast. Yeah, we're milk. Yeah, that's totally me. I'm a super out on the outside, but I'm a mush puppy if you get in front of me wrong. You know what I mean? I'll
Right.
if you're a disabled kid or something like that, I'll melt
Yep.
like I'll melt
Yep.
I'll melt like a crayon.
And there's nothing
And
wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong. But we've been taught, hey, don't show that to people. Don't let anybody see that. Well, why? That's it's okay to be human. It's okay to have a heart. It's okay to show that heart. And you're doing an amazing thing in all the different avenues that you're doing, whether it's your podcast, it's working with disadvantaged kids, and all the things that you're doing. Those are all ministry things. Those are all being there for people. You're putting yourself in a space that says, hey, you know what? I'm a safe space to be able to, for you to be able to lean on, right? The challenge sometimes is that a lot of us that are empathetic or have that kind of a piece to us where we want to be there for somebody else, lots of times we don't look after ourselves. We pour into lots of other people, but we don't empty our cup so that we can receive more, right? We think, oh, no, I'll be the tough one. Everybody can lean on me. But at some point that causes challenges inside. So then it becomes, okay, how do I have to be able to release that and let that out, because even a coach needs a coach, right?
That's correct. That's 100%. Yes.
So even though we're tough on the outside sometimes, being able to say, hey, you know what? I need to plug in to the emotional side of my being, of who I am. I ought to be able to plug into that. I need to be able to get healed, right? Somebody asked Tony Robbins one time after if you've seen I'm Not Your Guru, he does a thing with this one girl, and he cries, and it's a monumentally horrible thing that happened to her. And even he cries through it, but they follow him to the back and they said, how do you deal with that? Because you're talking to thousands of people. You've talked to so many people that have these major deals happening to them in a negative way. How do you hold that? Like, what do you do with that? He goes, no. I have to let it out. I have to find a way to release that so that I don't hold it inside myself. And I think sometimes that's where the burnout comes, right? Because we hold it in. We say, no, I'm going to be the strong one. I'm going to be the strong one. And then we implode, sometimes spectacularly, because we didn't look after ourselves. And that's sort of full circle back into self-care. Being able to look at, right, doing what I need to do for me. That's not selfish. You get on a plane, the flight attendant will say, in the unlikely event of a depressurization in the cabin, blah, 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 blah. But The oxygen mask will come down. Put your own on first before you try and help anybody, because if you go sideways or you pass out, you're no good to any of the people that you love and care about, that you want to help, right? So that was a hard lesson for me, because I went, no. I'm used to being the one that's doing the helping. Like yourself, I'm like, no. You go ahead, lean on me. I'll be the tough, strong one. The challenge is at some point, and my body I'm a walking billboard for self-care, right? Well, this is what happens when you don't do self-care. And people tell me all the time, well, your body is letting you down. I'm like, no. For 30 years, I let it down. Now I'm reaping the consequences of what I didn't look after.
Check.
And is that hard? Yep. Is that difficult? Absolutely it is. But being able to teach that now and let that out and make sure people understand, hey, especially guys, hey, find some way to let it out. Find some outlet. And in Boxing Inside Out, we teach some tools and strategies to do that. But just general obvious stuff, whether it's weightlifting and exercise is a great idea. Running is a great idea. Journaling, where you're writing it, don't go back and go, well, it's not written right, and it doesn't matter even if you can read it again. Because if you're angry or you're frustrated or you're pissed off, you start to write what you're thinking and what you're pissed off about. The weirdest thing happens it may start out just virile, right? But part of the way through, you start to go, okay, because you've gotten it out of yourself. Right now, it may still the residual. There's residual to that for sure, right? But getting it out in a way that works for you, a combination of writing it or working out or fighting, right? If that's what works for you, I think it was Tyson that said something about everybody wants to fight, but most people don't want it. It all turns real when you get punched in the face, right?
Right? Everything changes when you get punched in the face. Exactly. That is 100% true.
Right? So, but if that's what works, then do it. But make so a lot of times we don't have the plan. What happens if I get pissed off? What happens if I get angry? What happens if I'm frustrated with whatever? It doesn't have to be a person. It could be frustrated with a situation, frustrated. That's part of my stuff at the moment, where I'll read stuff and I sit and listen to you, or I listen to Jose, or I listen to Dennis or Dan Dominguez. I listen to some of these people, or Tony or Grant or any of these guys, and I get all fired up and excited because that's what gets me going. I can watch 2 or 3 minutes of these guys and go, oh, and I'm so excited, but my body can't do what I want it to do in the moment. And then I get angry and pissed off and frustrated that I can't be who I was. Right. You take that.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that feeling.
Absolutely. But then because of that anger and frustration, how do I respond to my family or to my wife in those moments? Right. So it's taken me some time to go, no, wait. I have to stimulus. I have to pause. I have to hold the powers in the pause. I have to hold on to that for a little bit and go, no. How do I release that frustration and anger, or let it go? How do I release it so that it's not impacting? Because you've seen the thing about the 86,400, right? If you have $86,400 in the bank and someone steals $400, you don't burn the other $86,000 because you're pissed off. But we do that in life all the time, right? Someone cuts us off in our drive, or something pisses us off for a millisecond, and we flush the rest of the day away because we're in this space in our head where we just can't let that go. And so it negatizes the whole rest of our day. Finding a way to say, no, I need to release that. And I give myself a time frame. Okay, Gord, you could be pissed off for 5 minutes, and then you're going to let it go and move on with your life. Because you have to acknowledge that feeling, but then you have to let it go. You have to be able to move forward. And if I spend too much time pissed off or angry or frustrated, I'm no good to my wife or my kids or my clients or anybody. So it doesn't hold me in that positive space.
That's good. I think it's a good way to. We went on about 15 minutes over, man. I could go on with you for a while.
Sorry.
And it was that was, I think that's a good, powerful way to end that. So I want to make sure that anybody that's on here, that you guys see that you can reach Gordon if you're looking for a little bit of more that type of coaching. He's here. I'm sure what we should do, maybe, Gordon, is down the road, a couple months from now, we'll let's revisit and do a men's mental health one. Period. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we'll talk about, and we'll gear it towards that. So
Sure.
you can give some maybe some pointers out to what that looks like for for guys, and
Yep. I can do that.
we can see who can we can come out and help out. It'll be fun.
Yep.
All right. So
Absolutely.
once again, yes, you guys can find Gordon right here, especially if you're connected with me, and he'll be able to see it. But if you are going to go, you better do it now because he's almost at 5,000. I saw that the other day when I'm like, oh man, he's about it. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? I'm creeping up there ever since the CLA tribe. My friend, I
It's
think
gone
I'm going
up.
to end up running into that. The more consistent you are with things, the more lives you start to touch, the more that comes into play, and so
Absolutely.
it's been yeah, this has been a great hour and 15 minutes. I enjoyed it.
You too.
I look forward to we'll have some more coffee together, and
Let's do
I'll
that.
I'll communicate with you once we're here, and this will be done audio wise. You guys will be able to find this on markcox.com on audio. You can subscribe to my podcast, Real Talk with Mark Cox, at any of this Apple and Spotify and all that. I'm on all the platforms, and so if the people like to do podcasting and listen to it, they'll be able to go there. They'll be able to find you from that also. You'll be on my website from now on. You'll have your own little kind of guest profile when
Oh,
people
very cool.
go to where you're at. They'll be able to see you there and be able to. And I'll make sure that this email gets in there too. Sound
I
good?
appreciate that. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thanks so
Thank you,
much,
Mark.
Gordon.
Thank
Awesome
you.
time today. All right.
Thank
You
you.
have a good day, man.
Yeah, you make it a great day.
All right.